Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, today we want to talk about installing an Android container onto a Linux distribution. In this case, we are picking Fedora. So this is an application. It's been around for a little bit, but I'm not sure if it's been super stable, whatever else. I've started to see some buzz about it recently. So I want to go ahead and have a look at it, get it to work, and see what we can do with this. This, of course, is the system called Waydroid. So Waydroid is a containerization system that you can run inside of several Linux distributions that allows you to run a containerized Android device. So the same type of thing we start to see with things that are like the vanilla OS, where things are running in containers, or Nix, or a lot of your immutable systems, which are running more containerized systems. This allows us to do a lot of things inside of containers that we didn't really have an easy ability to do in the past. Now, even though this we're going to get this up, this did actually take me a little bit of time to figure out. Part of it is because we're doing work in virtualization. And let me talk about that very briefly. First and foremost, there are always people that get in the comments, well, why do you do it in virtualization? Why not do it on real hardware? The real reason is the world runs in virtualization. Okay, nearly every server are virtual servers. If you cannot get your system to work inside of virtualization, it's not ready, because this is where things are tested. This is where things are developed. We don't spin stuff up and test them up on real hardware most of the time. You get into your alphas and betas maybe, but even then, you still need to have this working. And this is where I did a video not too long ago where I talked about this as becoming a problem, that Linux is becoming way too fragmented now, and that people are just throwing out distributions and not testing them on a wider range of hardware, and they just don't work. This is the third different attempt that I had of trying to get Waydroid to work, because a couple of different newer Linux distributions came out, which the latest versions are supposed to have Waydroid working out of the box. I can't get any of them to install in virtualization. Now, I will attempt to install those in real hardware as well, just as another secondary test. But here, I was able to get Waydroid working inside of Fedora, and in doing so, we wanted to go ahead and show you guys how we did that and what this guy can do. So head on over to Waydroid, and it's waydro.id. So they're using one of those split domains. And basically allows you to do a containerized full boot into an Android system. Now, I believe you can use a variety of different systems. They make available to you the latest Lineage build. So I basically am running Lineage, and you have a Lineage build with GApps installed. So if you're using Google accounts, or they can do a Lineage build without the GApps as well. Of course, I went with the one without the GApps, which is effectively the same exact thing I run on my phone. So we can go ahead and talk about testing out applications that I might want to install on my phone. This is a good application to test this out. Or if there's some phone-based application you want to run inside of virtualization, you can go ahead and do this as well. So the information here has all the information you're going to need on the site. They actually do have quite a bit of documentation. And if we head on over to the documentation, which is docs.waydroid.id, so go ahead and head on over there, and you'll see all of your documentation for various builds. Now, obviously, first and foremost, you do need to run this on something running Wayland as a compositor. So I didn't want to attempt to get it to work on like a Linux Mint, because we need something running Wayland. Why'd I choose Fedora? Well, Fedora has been one of the leaders in Wayland for a long time, and I happen to have a Fedora download in my ISO folder, so I didn't have to download another distribution. Why not? So let's go with that. Of course, we have Arch users, so there's some Arch user information there. So here's from the Arch wiki. So if you want to install Waydroid, here's your basic information. Now, this is a part down here if you are not using graphic acceleration, which also applies to virtual machines. This is the part that threw me for a loop. I couldn't get this guy working right away because of that. So we'll get into that a little bit more in a bit, but you can see the different information there for installing on Arch. We have Postmarket. Here's Mobian. Here's Zorin. Here's Sailfish. Fedora, you just install Waydroid, and there you go. It's pretty easy on Fedora. That's another reason to use it. Here's Void Linux, Pop OS, Ubuntu and Debian systems. You're going to need to install their official repository using curl. Here is Waydroid on Nix OS. So depending on which system you're using, as long as you got Wayland as a compositor, you're going to be able to get this guy to work. So just find whatever one you are running, and then when you get it installed, and on the first run, it's going to have you install an image, and of course, it's going to default to grab either the Lineage with GApps or the Lineage without GApps. The big downside I found is the only download source for these appears to be SourceForge, and as I've detailed before, I have problems with SourceForge, whether I'm here in the van or on a network, just on friends' Wi-Fi. Most of the time when I have to download something from SourceForge, it fails or takes several attempts to run. And that is a problematic thing. And in fact, I think I finally got it to running because when I download through my VPN, it succeeds more than fails. And that's what I did is I ran the system through my VPN. So I think I set up my Fedora running through my VPN. So I'm going a host machine into the guest machine into a VPN, and that finally got it to download. And I tried 7 or 8 different times before I got it to work because SourceForge does cause problems for a lot of us in the world. So you guys at Waydroid, why don't you give us a few more options there, because that's kind of insane. So with that being said, though, let's go ahead and jump on over to the Linux build. So here we're going to do the setup and first install on the Fedora machine. So we're going to first, I have my Firefox page open here. And since we're using Fedora, we can just go ahead and install it easily in the terminal. So let's just go ahead and boot up the terminal. And it's going to give us a sudo dnf install Waydroid. And let's go ahead and do that. And then we're going to say yes. We're going to download this guy here. And this is going to install everything that we need to get Waydroid working. Now, of course, there's going to be one more step we're going to do later because we're on a virtual machine. If you are installing this not on a virtual machine, then you'll be able to run it just fine. So right now, we're just going to get this guy installed. All right, so it says it's complete. And inside of here, we'll see a Waydroid icon. This will set it up in the GUI. Now, I found that it actually works better running it through the terminal just because, for whatever reason, it says downloading stuff on SourceForge in the terminal works a little bit better. But we're going to go ahead and just install it through the GUI here just so you can kind of see. So we put the system OTA and the vendor OTA in here. And then we pick the Android type. The vanilla is your basic Lineage without the GApps. And of course, the GApps is the Lineage build with the GApps. We're going to hit our download here, and then we have to hit our enter. And then what it's going to do now is it's just going online and it's downloading a series of containers. I'm not going to show this whole step because I already have this built up on another system. And from here, you're just going to go ahead, let it do the downloads, let it do its thing, and then you simply click on the Waydroid logo again, and it's going to boot up into the container. And I'm going to show you what that looks like after we fix the brokenness for virtual machine. First step was getting it to work through a VM. And this is really where I had the biggest amount of problem. So the instructions are you're going to boot up a terminal here. And so let's go with sudo nano, and then you're going to edit var lib Waydroid and then waydroid.cfg and enter your password. And then under properties, you're going to add these 2 elements here. Now, if you're running this on real hardware and you're not using NVIDIA, so real hardware AMD, you probably will not need to do this. But if you boot up the Waydroid after you've installed your container and your system lags or freezes or hangs, this is what you need to do. So ro.hardware. Is it Gralloc? GRALLOC equals default, and hardware EGL equals Swift shader. Set those 2 in the properties, and in my case, I went ahead and did a reboot. I don't think you have to do the reboot, but I did it just for the case. And then you're going to run the sudo waydroid upgrade -o. just going to update it with the new configuration file. Once you have that working, then you can just come down here and open up Waydroid, and it's going to go ahead and give you your Waydroid here. So just have this on a different workspace. You can see here that where our Lineage is over here on the internet. So that's what our internet system is there. Our battery is sitting here at 85%. I'm not sure why the battery's at 85%. Maybe it's because I'm on van batteries. Who knows? I doubt it. Because I am kind of through an AC system and there's no feedback from which battery is here. So, of course, this is just your basic Lineage. So let's pull up our settings panel. Of course, I switched it over to dark mode to make it a lot easier to read. But here's your network and internet information. Here's your various connected devices. So if I had Bluetooth on this machine, I could use it. This machine does not have Bluetooth. Here's your apps and notifications. I actually did install FDroid. I installed K9 Mail, and which will be Thunderbird Mail, by the way, soon. And I installed NVIDIA, which we did the video on the other day, just to test out how that guy's going to work over here as well. And so from that, I came over here. You can check a look at all of your systems. So here's your styles. So I just toggled the dark theme on, so that'll turn on there. Here's your styles and wallpapers over here. And so if I wanted to change my wallpaper, let's see if I can remember how to do this. So here on Lineage, we got just a couple options over here. There's no photos. It looks like we only have one image there. I thought Lineage gave us a couple other images to look at, but maybe not. All right, here's your style. Here's your grid layout, so you can set how your grid is and things like that. Of course, you have your navigation buttons, your back and your home screen button over here. And way on the right, we have our Open Applications button here. So if you want to do that, then you can close an application just by sliding it on up like that. So that's how you can get it to work. So you just use your mouse pointer like anything else, and it is exactly Lineage. I mean, this is what I use day to day on my device, so I didn't really notice any real difference. Of course, we have our browser installed there. And let me slide on over to this screen. So I installed FDroid, which is a good free and open source software repository. So if you wanted to download anything else, you can go ahead and do it here. Oh, Simple Music Player. I meant to click the search button. Here's our search button. It is a little bit slow, and that's because we're running all on software rendering mode. If you were running this on real hardware, it would be a lot smoother, but this is the sacrifice of doing it inside of a VM. But in my case, I'm not installing it on my main system. So here's Firefox Updater. This will give you a variety of different web browsers. You can just go ahead and install what you want here. This is just a Firefox Updater. It will always check to see if there is any updates to any of the Firefox-based browsers that you have. And last time I knew, this allows you to get a variety of different browsers. Let's see. I think we have to click up, click the plus. Here's Firefox for Android beta. Here's Firefox Focus. Firefox Focus and Firefox Clar. These are effectively the same one. Focus is generally the one that you would find inside of the Google Play Store, and Clar is generally the more open source availability on open repositories and things like that. They're effectively the same. I like those ones particularly because they explicitly do not have location, microphone, camera code in them. They can't even access that information. Obviously, that will make them a little bit limited in some respects. If you need a full browser, do this. Of course, on an Android device, I use a variety of browsers. You also can download the Tor browser over here. We have the Alpha. Here's Ice Raven. Here's Bromite, is a good privacy browser. Here's Better Than Google Chrome. Here's Brave browser, DuckDuckGo privacy browser, Vivaldi, then a few end-of-life ones that aren't updated anymore. All of those you can download very quickly from this Firefox Updater on FDroid. So if you are using, something like FDroid and you're being more cautious about your Android uses, that is a really good application to get installed through FDroid. It's going to allow you to get all those different browsers. And then usually what I do is I will delete that. I even delete FDroid off the system and I'll reinstall it when I need to push for global updates or things like that. For mapping on Android, I use OSM which is Open Street Maps. So that's this guy here. I believe that's this guy. Did they change their logos on me? Yeah, OSM Plus. So this guy here is going to allow you to download maps, and this is what I use all around the country. What I really like about this particular app, everything is done offline, and they have most of the trail maps around the world on it as well. So I use this when I'm traveling around, going into a national park, download the state map, and then just zoom in on the national park. And if I need to get off trail, OSM will generally get me right back on a trail. I actually had to use this once. I got stuck in like a canyon lands. Somebody built cairns where they're not supposed to, and I ended up in somewhere way off the trail, completely lost. OSM is what got me back to the trail. So that's a really good application for that. And since I do a lot of things with Christian studies, and Bible is the best overall, utilizes the sword modules, also gives you warnings before you go online in case you're in a persecuted country. So you can get online to download free and open source copies of Bibles, but it will not do that without giving you an explicit warning first. So it's a very good tool that I use. And of course, the whole suite of Nextcloud software is the only other one that I really have. Looking at these, we have not Joplin, that's not what I was looking for. Here's your Nextcloud synchronization client. I think I installed that as well. News feeds. Here's Nextcloud password manager. So all these Nextcloud things are actually embed in with your Nextcloud server. So you can go ahead and manage a lot of things with that. So this system will allow you to play around with test software and different things like that without actually having the Android device. So if you want to test something out before you actually have it installed on your phone itself, you could test out an app, see how it works and things. So this app is a really nice tool. This, again, is Waydroid, and with this, you can go ahead and anything you can do on the phone, you have the full ability of doing it right here. So, of course, this is the Android version of the software package we talked about the other day for various language studies. And then we have in here just everything else for managing your app. Now, of course, over here on Fedora, since it's using GNOME, I can just go right back to my operating system over here or back to my Android if I want to just keep my Android up and use my desktop computer the whole way. Of course, that's one of your benefits of using GNOME. But that is indeed what we have over here working with Waydroid. All right, so now after all of this is installed and we can close our machine down. Whoops, wrong button there. Let me do that. Now that our machine is closed down, we can reopen our whole Waydroid application here, and this will give us the whole of our system. But if I don't want to run the whole system and I just want to run an individual Android app, you'll see that it does put each of these inside of there. So here's the AnkiDroid. Here's the FDroid, and here's your FDater, here's your K9 Mail. And what you'll see is when you open these guys up, of course, K9 Mail opens up wanting you to configure an email address. So you can go ahead and do that. But if I go ahead and pull up the side there, you'll see the whole application disappears. That's because we didn't open the whole container. But I can go ahead and open up the Droid here as well. And it's just anytime I would click out of it, it'll just close out the box. But now, of course, I can just open up Waydroid itself, and you'll see that everything is all here, and then I can just use it as a typical system. So there's the two applications we had opened. It still keeps the track that those guys are open. Of course, I can close the whole container here just by doing that. So there we have all of the applications are containerized. It's going to start the Android in the background, so you don't actually have to go full screen on the Android application for it. So I did get this working on Fedora. It was, as I said, a little bit of a struggle, and there are a few other Linux distributions come out which in theory have this built. I have not been able to get any of those installed on the virtual machines using either GNOME boxes or VirtualBox. I will try those on real hardware as well, see if we can get some real hardware reviews up here, as well as I do now have an extra spare hard drive up there I can tap into if I need to. But with that being said, though, guys, thank you for watching this video here on Waydroid. Have a look at the software, and if you're using have a need for Android applications or testing out Android applications or things like that, you can go ahead and use this in place of using it on a specific phone for testing different applications. Or this is full Lineage, so if you want to see what Lineage can actually do without installing it on a phone, this is exactly the same Lineage that I'm using on my devices here. With that, thank you for watching, everybody. I'll have links to all these things down in the description here. Thank you for watching, and we will see you all next time. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.